Dr.Cape の特 A 級対策。本日のお題、内政干渉、人道的介入を国連憲章と移り変わる世界情勢の観点から3本のエッセイにまとめています。国家安全保障と人間の安全保障がよくわかります。早速見ていきましょう。3本のエッセイのタイトルはこちらです。
Discuss national security and human security in United Nations politics. Discuss the importance of human security in United Nations research. Discuss the controversy surrounding the United Nations humanitarian interventions.
まずは国家安全保障と人間の安全保障の比較ですね。1、2つの安全保障。2、国家の安全保障第一。3、干渉の権限はないが。4、人間の安全保障が焦点。国連の政治的背景が国家の安全保障から人間の安全保障にシフトしてきているということです。
I would like to discuss the UN political context, in which there has been a shift of focus from national security to human security, i.e., the state-centric to human-centric notion of security, in the diplomatic discourse and action.
はい、もともとは国家間の友好的な関係、これがもう一番大事、一番の優先事項でした。
In 1945, when the architects, negotiators of the UN signed the organization's charter, they commonly regarded the sovereignty of each independent state as sacrosanct. They probably did not question much about the compatibility of member states' sovereignty with the ultimate goals of the organization, namely to maintain international peace, Article 1.1, and to develop friendly relations among nations, Article 1.2. The priority concern was about national security of each signatory member, i.e., territorial integrity, rather than human security of its own citizens.
国連憲章で内政干渉はしないと定めているとはいえ、序文ですね、オレンジのとこです。We the people で始まってるんです。つまり人間が大前提なんですね。
The chapter made it clear, Article 2.7, about the principle of non-intervention by the UN in domestic matters of the jurisdiction of any sovereign state. We wonder, however, whether the principle is always consistent with the Charter's preamble, which states that the organization is to promote the interest and welfare of we the people of the United Nations.
はい、もうやり方が圧倒的にも人道的におかしい国はもう国連が何とかするしかないという感じです。
Over time, the armed conflicts have changed in nature. During much of the Cold War period, the armed conflicts were mostly interstate, but now the majority of armed conflicts are those among domestic political factions, rather than those of interstates. This means that the UN has been obliged to look into the situation of human security, i.e., the condition of citizens' well-being, of these countries, of questionable governance practices.
はい、今度2つ目のエッセイですね。1994年の Human Development Report。これを参考に書かれています。3章になってたんですが、最後の3章2つに分けています。1、冷戦後の安全保障とは。2、新たな脅威は広範囲。3-1、人間を守るバランス。3-2、軍事費よりも国家的。でいきましょう。冷戦後、安全保障問題の再解釈が必要です。
I would like to discuss the UN's intellectual contribution to reinterpretation of security issues in the post-Cold War period. In this regard, specifically, the Human Development Report 1994 was the single most memorable publication that addresses the question at hand, and thus, it commands our attention.
現代社会では環境破壊やテロなど人間の安全保障の内容の幅がすごく広いです。
Instead of the traditional approach to national security, i.e., the protection of a country's territorial borders by military means, the report argued that the protection of people must deal with a wide range of new threats. These threats range from disease to urban crime, from food insecurity to environmental degradation, from unemployment to terrorism. The new perspective is to focus on the threats to the country's citizens, and to set priorities for the state, to minimize the impact of the risks of these threats, to the citizens.
はい、軍事活動と軍事費だけではもう人間を守れないという時代なんですね。
Human security also contains the military dimensions, but proposes that there should be a better balance between activities, expenditures on military and armaments, and on non-military activities and actions, which contribute to human security.
はい、じゃあどこにエネルギーと費用をかければいいのかということが具体的に書かれています。
This would help, for example, to diminish other threats to security, by making resources available for the police force, to tackle urban crime, health personnel to prevent international disaster transmission, and national and international investment, to ensure food security, and to guard against natural and man-made disasters. The report gave particular attention to measures to control the international flow of arms, and to provide for the demobilization of soldiers, including teenage soldiers, in post-conflict situations.
はい、続きまして人道的介入ですね。1、国家と人間の安全保障。2、内政干渉は許さない。3、介入を規定する。4、守る責任、人道的介入。はい、続いて見てください。この赤文字のとこです。proscribing と prescribing で、なんでしょう。韻を踏んでますね。素敵。
I would like to compare and contrast two concepts, national security and human security, which are associated with the intervention prescribing principle of state sovereignty, and the intervention prescribing principle of human rights, respectively.
はい、まずは intervention proscription です。禁止の方ですね。
During the Cold War period, state sovereignty was privileged over human rights, meaning the United Nations, UN, managed only a relatively small number of humanitarian interventions. State sovereignty was then assumed to be so sacrosanct that the internal matters of independent states should be left to their administrative authorities. I call this the period of intervention proscription.
はい、続いて intervention prescription ですね。これは1994年ルワンダの大虐殺以降、だんだんこの動きが活発になってきています。
The end of the Cold War has altered the state of affairs, most of all with the emergence of numerous cases of governance failure, where the state authorities were often culprits of human insecurity. The UN was then criticized for its inaction to mitigate the outrageous cases of human insecurity, as seen the case of the 1994 genocide of 800,000 citizens over 3 months in Rwanda. Since then, the balance in the UN diplomatic discourse has clearly tilted toward favoring intervention prescription, with the UN now endorsing numerous operations with the primary goal of protecting the general public from domestic atrocities.
人間の安全保障ができてこその国連、そして国際社会という感じです。
The new concept, the responsibility to protect, R2P, has been gradually accepted, where citizens are seen as rights holders, to demand basic human needs, and states as duty bearers for them. This implies that, when the states seriously fail to meet basic human rights of their own citizens, the international community has the legitimate task, as enshrined in the UN Charter, to undertake humanitarian interventions.
いかがでしたでしょうか。本当に面白いですよね。読めば読むほど何回も読んじゃう。暇か言って。はい、ここで嬉しいお知らせです。ドクターケープの方からですね、こんな話題、こんなトピックについて書いてほしいとかいうのがあったらリクエストを受付中。全部に 100% お答えできない可能性もありますけども、時間の許す限りですね、書いてくださるということですので、何かリクエストがありましたらコメント欄の方にどしどしお寄せください。はい、こんな風に客観的なのに説得力のあるエッセイというのを書けたら楽しいですね。国連憲章がこんなに分かりやすかったのは山ちゃん初めてです。当時は何も分からずにただ丸暗記。はい。人間の安全保障といえばコロナのワクチンなんですけど、ちょうど今ねテレビで先進国がだいたい 13% の国々が供給量の半分以上を抑えちゃう みたいです。先進国の日本でよかったって思っちゃわなかったですか？私も思っちゃったんですけど、それも虚しいなと思いつつ思っちゃうんですよね。でも逆にどうやって分配するべきかっていうのも難しいですよ。子供が先かとか、お年寄りが先かとか、難しいです。この後どうなるのか、ニュースから目が離せませんね。Okay? じゃあまた次回お会いしましょう。Thank you for watching. I see you soon.